What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Capturing Form. My name is Freddie Fang. You know what we do here. We're talking about routine. We're talking about execution. We're talking about all the crazy things that go on in creatives' lives. And I'm really happy today to have a very special guest. I know we had a beat producer. At this point, must have been several weeks ago, but we have another one. And this one is fantastic because if you haven't listened to his music, you gotta go give it a listen. He's only been at it for 2.5 years, but in those 2.5 years, he has over 20,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, songs with over 100,000 streams. He's at it every day consistently, and it's his full-time profession. An amazing beat producer with, I think, a lot of golden advice to give. Let's welcome Patrick Stafford, a.k.a. Stafford Beats.
Hey, thank you, man. Happy to be here.
Dude, I'm so stoked to have you on. I love talking with other musicians. I think that other musicians, especially beat producers, have a lot to say when it comes to the actual production of the music and then opinions about music that's out. That's a lot different from what an artist would say. So hopefully we're going to get ready to discuss that later on. But again, dude, stoked that you're here.
Hell yeah, man.
I guess for everyone out there that doesn't know who you are, and let's say you were in like an elevator with someone, how would you pitch yourself? What would you consider yourself as?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'm just, I'm a producer at heart. That's my main thing that I do. So I make beats for artists, for, anything like, I don't know, TV, whatever. But I also, I try to get myself involved with a lot of other things as well, like, the business related things in music. I do a little bit of audio engineering myself. I write, I do basically everything that involves music. I do art.
Let's go. Triple threat, maybe quadruple threat. Does basically a producer at heart, but interested and invested in the music game.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I want to take it back to the beginning of your music career. I think what the audience doesn't know was that before you're in music, you're actually in the military. So I would love to talk about when did you discover music, and B, when you're in the military, when did the idea come out that, oh, I love making beats, I can make it into my full-time profession?
So I was in the military for probably 3 years, maybe just a little bit longer, like 3 years and a few months. And it was January 1st of 2020. I had re-downloaded FL Studio because, I was stationed in Alaska. I was, bored out of my mind. I was, talking to some of my homies from Colorado where I grew up that also, they rapped or whatever, they did their thing. And, I was just trying to, mess with beats a little bit. I had made a little bit of music, back when I was like 13 or 14, because my grandpa bought me FL Studio, and it was like, I was at it for like a month at the time, when I was 13 or 14, trying to make EDM before I decided that it was, not really my cup of tea. I got pretty bored of it. So, fast forward back to January of 2020, I re-downloaded FL Studio, and I started looking up some videos on like how to make beats, seeing the Internet Money tutorials, Nick Mira cooking up stuff for Juice WRLD or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Nick Mira.
yeah, and
Insane
that was a time where I was, just getting into hip hop, just getting into trap, that whole scene. So I was really, just feeling more invested into that type of music because I hadn't really grown up on it. And I just went for it, and I ended up falling in love with just the process of being able to finish stuff, a lot quicker than these EDM projects that take, sometimes like a week to finish or whatever.
This is while you're stationed.
Yeah. While I was up in Alaska, working probably 60-hour work weeks at the time on average. Jeez. Doing 12-hour shifts. But yeah, I don't know. It just kind of started happening. And, once I was into it, I had started, I was using Reddit actually as like my main source of like information for beats and stuff. There were a lot of communities I was involved with that were like, I don't know, it's like making hip hop and trap producers and stuff like that. And, I had started posting on there about this Discord server that I made, and I had played a lot of games before. Before I got into beats, I was a really big gamer. I
feel like you gotta
League
be
and
if you're in a
Overwatch
producer,
and stuff.
You gotta be in a game.
Yeah, I feel like most producers are. So I was like using Discord for games and stuff like that. I was like, yo, what if there was like a musician Discord? And I didn't know that was already a thing. I thought Discord was like just for gamers or whatever. So I had made a Discord server, and the whole purpose was just to build a community of like-minded people, because I didn't really know anybody else that, personally, that made music or produced or, did beats or whatever. So I started posting on these Reddit forums, and I was like, yo, starting up this Discord server. If you don't know what Discord is, here's some info. I'm just trying to get, community started. It's not, it wasn't meant to be like, trying to promote myself or anything like that. I just wanted to learn. And
Yeah.
I ended up getting banned from like 3 Reddit communities because I was self-promoting. I didn't realize it. But
You're
we
like,
ended
hey,
up getting like
join my
200
Discord?
people. Yeah, we got like 200 people in the Discord. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
And there's a lot of people that I still talk to like every day that were like day ones from that. So that's kind of how I got into it. Just built that community up, and just started working with a bunch of producers, trying to learn stuff. And I just loved the process, really.
Do you remember the first beat you made / do you still have it?
I think I do have it, actually. I think it's on my SoundCloud, probably. It's probably like the first thing that I posted on there. I'm pretty sure it was an XXX Tentacion type beat.
Uh-huh.
But it was like when he did his hard stuff. So it was like, that trap metal kind of vibe. Obviously it sucked, but I had put it on there. I had made some weird stuff before that, just fucking around, but that was like the first actual beat that I had posted anywhere or whatever.
I think every artist needs to have their first beat, because I think we all in the moment we make the first thing, we're like, yo, this is hot. But looking back on it, we're like, man, we're so much better now. But it's good to have just as almost like a reminder to yourself of how far that you've come.
Yeah, I'm a really big believer in just having a lot of, your old content posted and not really taking all of it down. Like if you have a ton, like I get taking some of it down or whatever, but especially as, advice to producers is just honestly like, I hear all the time, like, oh, I'm new to making beats. I don't think I'm ready to start posting them yet or whatever. Like, fuck that. Just post them. Put stuff out, because not only, are you going to love to look back on it when you're doing really good, but, people also love to see your progression over time. There's people, like artists and stuff that I had worked with that, thought my beat sucked at the time. One of them actually was 347 Aiden. Before he blew up or anything, like he was still a real small artist, and I was following him. I don't remember from where, but he had a story saying that he needed some beats, and I did the dumbest thing. I was like, oh man, I got this 10-pack of lo-fi beats for $10. Like I shouldn't have been charging, for that or whatever, but like he listed some of the beats. He didn't like them, like whatever. Fast forward to like 3-4 months ago, he's blown up. He's worked with Kenny Beats and like all these other people. He's like, charting and stuff like that. And he hits me up about a song that I produced and said that he really loves the production on it. And it's like, he's going to remember that time where like, I sucked. And in those 2 years, I got so much better to where he just hit me up about it. It wasn't like me hitting him up, seeing what he thought about it or whatever. Like it was just completely organic. So I think that, it's really important to post that old stuff and, just have that available.
One thing I think that's really important is that at least, well, first impressions, for example, in general, everyday life is something that usually sticks in our head. We have a first impression of somebody. It's like, this is likely who he is. But I feel like as a creative in music, especially, like who you are when you start out will not be, if you continue with it through consistency, who you are at where you are now. Because the progress that you can make in, for you, 2.5 years, for someone in a year, half a year, if you even do it for an hour a day, how quick that you'll become good at it. Things that you thought you didn't have an ear or an eye for, you suddenly do have one for. And that process, I think they're freaking magical. Yeah,
it's definitely hard sometimes too to like reshape how you think of people. And I know, because I'm very self-aware of like of that exactly, that concept. But I know there's a lot of people who will just, if they see your beats for the first time, 3-4 years ago, they're still going to think you suck if it's like 5 years later. And, like there's some people who just, have that stagnant mindset. But I think, you just need to keep an open mind with a lot of people. Like there's people who I've seen who started before or a little bit after me, who were like very new, kind of when I was, and now they're, charting on Billboard, they're multi-platinum, whatever, they're doing really awesome. And, it's so cool to see people's progression. I think that's a really important thing, is just, being able to be self-aware of like, okay, maybe I didn't like this person's stuff like a year ago, but I'm not about to ignore them now because they're trying to work. Like I'm gonna give them a chance always. Like everybody improves. Especially like when it comes to having a bad first impression with somebody. Like I just like to think a lot of times, like, is this a mistake that maybe I could have made, in this same
Mm,
situation back in the day? It's like if there's any way that I possibly could have made that same mistake, or it's justifiable whatsoever, I'm like, yeah, I'm absolutely gonna give them another chance. Try to rekindle that relationship and everything, and
yeah,
because everybody deserves a few chances. I feel like, especially in music, because it,
especially in
it can be
music.
hard because a lot of people don't know anything going into it, and like how are you going to let something that you did a month into your production fuck up the rest of your career? Like, that's not how it works.
I agree. And I think if you're, especially if you have a close relationship with this person, let's say you start that relationship early, and then throughout that relationship, you start hearing their things, and man, they're just progressing at a light rate. You don't want it to be like, oh, I cut off this relationship. Now we don't have anything. And
Mm,
and you still have someone that you can work with and also just, of course, be friends with, rather than, what, this guy didn't make a good thing on our first, meetup. I'm done.
right, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I relate so much to having a lot of failures early on, and a lot of things that maybe I don't regret doing, but it probably would have been good if I didn't. Like, there were a lot of times where I thought I should be charging when I shouldn't, or like tried to make some quick money when it really it didn't matter, and it that shouldn't have been the focus or whatever. And it's ruined some relationships in the past, but being able to fix those relationships after some time, or like at least learn from those things. I feel like I've learned so much from my failures, my first couple of years into it. And I learn more about it every day. So I absolutely want to make sure that other people have that same chance.
Props for one being self-aware. It's a tough skill to have.
Right.
Branching it back though, leaving the military, what did you do during the time frame between full time and just getting out? Like how did you, I guess, structure your way to be able to do this full time?
So while I was in the military, I was just grinding every day. I set aside a lot of social obligations and a lot of other things, and just
How hard
basically
was that?
it was tough at first. After a while, you get used to it. But I think, I don't know, based on a lot of people's success stories, I feel like it's a necessary part of whatever you're doing. Like, I don't think that somebody can that on average somebody can become a successful musician without taking at least one really big significant risk in their life. And also being self-aware. Those are the two most important things, I feel like.
Mm,
Obviously there's going to be some people who take those risks and it doesn't work out, and there's also going to be some people who don't take the risks, and something just happens to work out because they got lucky. And that's totally cool. Like, that's going to happen a lot, but more times than not, you have to be self-aware enough to know where your flaws are, and you have to be willing to risk certain things, or you know throw away relationships in order to progress with what you're doing. Like, like I said, I was working 12 to 14 hour shifts, almost every day. Like, I would get 1 to 2 days off a week. I was working like 60 to 80 hours a week. I don't have time to work and to do all the other things the military needs me to do, like the physical training, like the running and all that, and maintain relationships and all that. Like, it's just not going to happen. So while I'm on shift, when I have downtime, or when I'm on a break or whatever, I'm watching YouTube videos on production, like music business advice. I've got a notebook. I'm handwriting notes about what I need to do, what some ideas I have for projects I'm working on, whatever. uh and then I'm also going to be texting back to people who I'm networking with, or like trying to maintain relationships with, from a music sense, like a business sense. And then when I get home, I'm still in my uniform. I haven't even changed or showered or anything like that. I make something quick for dinner. Boom, I'm making beats for like 2-3 hours, so I have to go to bed. And it's just like that every single day, you know
I love bringing this concept up though of having equipment, because I'm sure when you were there, you probably only had a laptop and some headphones. Can you
Yeah,
talk about that?
I mean, I don't I don't know. I feel like a lot of the time equipment does not need to be a roadblock for people. Like, especially with like, modern production and everything. You don't even need a mouse. You can just have a laptop that costs you like $200. It's like an old shitty one, and there's going to be some DAW that's going to work. Like, if you can afford bare minimum, anybody can get $200 together. It may take a while,
Yeah,
like if you're in the absolute worst case scenario, but I'd say on average most people can access a laptop or a computer, and that's all you need.
that's all
As
you
long as you've
need.
got that, I mean, you don't even fucking need headphones. People have made multi-platinum records on laptop speakers. Like, you do not by any means need, big expensive equipment, VSTs, whatever. Like, you can find drum kits on Reddit. You can use one shots if your computer's not good enough to handle VSTs. Like, I feel like if you think that you need better equipment to produce, you're thinking of it wrong.
The two biggest things I see stopping people from pursuing a creative path is one, the equipment, and then two, self-judgment, which I want to talk about with you more, the judgment from others, the judgment from yourself. But yeah, those two things, man, it's a killer. And to be honest, it was a very big reason about why I always had this interest in I want to film myself. I want to put myself out there on YouTube, but I don't want to use my phone because I think it's inferior. And I think for the longest time, it really deterred me. It really did. And looking back at it, to be honest, not necessarily regret, but it was a big learning moment that, man, you can make amazing things with the iPhone. Steven Spielberg is making movies with iPhones, things like that, that will put your lack of pursuing it into perspective. And you'll be like, man, I wish I started earlier, really got good at the craft with the iPhone. Imagine how good I could be with the camera then if I knew exactly how to make something with, I guess, like lower tier equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that was like a big takeaway from me.
Yeah. Equipment definitely doesn't need to be a roadblock by any means. Like, I don't know. I've always I've kept most of the time like bare minimum stuff. Like the first time that I started buying better equipment was when I made enough money off of beats to buy that equipment.
Dude,
So it's like,
commendable.
it was a really good feeling to be able to do that. But it's like, I have extra money from the military and stuff, but I'm not going to go spend all of it on a bunch of music equipment if I haven't done enough with music to make it worth for myself. Like, I wouldn't go buy an expensive camera, if I hadn't shot enough videos on my phone to know what I'm doing, like, because at that point
Major
you're always going
facts.
to feel like you need more equipment to do better. It just puts you in a trap. Like, okay, well, I need this mic that's a little bit better. I need this interface that's a little
A
bit better.
perpetual trap because there's always something better.
Yeah, but it's like, it's like when you're working out, equipment is kind of like supplements, right? Supplements can make a difference. I'm not talking like steroids or anything like that. I'm talking like creatine, protein powder, fucking pre-workout, stuff like
Workout.
that. Those are not the things that are going to make the majority difference. The majority difference is going to come with how you eat. It's going to come with how you work out. It's going to be how much sleep you get, how much water you drink. uh it the supplements are like the top 5% of like what everything matters for.
Agreed.
So if you're spending 90% of your time focusing on the thing that's going to affect you in less than 5%, like, what's it matter? I don't care if my mic is 1% better.
Yeah.
Like, I could record into my like, before I had a mic, if I wanted to record vocals for like a sampler or whatever, I'd record them into my voice memos, put it on, put it into FL, like after I email it to myself, and I just put some effects on it, because you can make it sound like, a normal sample, especially when you're just making like loops or whatever. It doesn't have to sound like full quality.
Yeah.
So
100% agree with you there on that. So in the military, you were grinding the beats every day. What did it look like once you got out?
so I had set myself up pretty well in the military. I was at a point where I was already making, enough money to be full time. When I had first got out, I
Oh, in
actually
the
moved.
military, you're already bringing in income enough to support
Yeah. I
yourself.
mean, I wouldn't have left the military if I wasn't in a position where I could support myself, because I feel like that's just kind of stupid. Like, I'd rather just keep grinding and keep saving up money while I'm in the military.
Right.
Um, because I wouldn't want to just, waste all the extra money that I had on the military on like a place to live when I'm not even making anything on beats. Like that's kind of stupid in my eyes. Like, of course, sometimes it's going to make sense for somebody if like they really need to get out of a situation. I feel like the situation I was in was fairly negative overall in my life, like mental health and, stuff like that. But I don't think it was so detrimental that, like I had to be out. It was just a very big want. Like, it was a motivating factor more than like, I need to get out of here before I can progress. Because if you can't progress, like while you're in a shitty situation, you're probably not going to be able to progress very well without that situation. Because
Yeah.
if you're not motivated enough by something that means a lot to you, why would you be motivated when there's nothing on the line? Like that's a big thing in my eyes. That's why I feel like everybody has to go through a phase where, you know, maybe it's not like the most unhealthy, but like it's got to be a pretty unhealthy phase of, you're not keeping up with your day-to-day relationships, like your friends and stuff like that. You're not keeping up with, for me it was even like family. I wasn't even like in contact a ton, which I'm not saying that's the way to go and you have to cut everybody off. But if you're so used to spending a ton of time with those people, or like you're hanging out every day, you're partying every weekend, whatever, like you got to stop that if you want a creative career. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Like with being a creative is a 24-hour job, and you need to make a lot of sacrifices to make it happen at the end of the day. And that, that shouldn't scare people, but like, also being a creative isn't for everybody. Like being a creative full time is a very hard thing to do. And it's, there's a lot of constants where it's like you have to make a lot of sacrifices in your life to be able to let your art sell itself and be, a big part of the world. Now that I am full time and now that I'm pretty stable off of beats and everything, I have more time to rekindle those relationships, spend more time outside of music doing things. But now I know my boundaries, and I know where I need to focus on my craft. I know where to focus on, the businesses that I run. Like, now I have more time to do that because I went through that period of my life where I was just, full force doing what I had to do to be full time.
Sometimes you need to choose the growth over the company. That one's huge. I think if you can take that growth and are like, you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice my social life, which you said you did in the military. Mm-hmm. Sacrifice my social life, sacrifice these few outings, sacrifice, not going out, saving some money so I can pursue this path. It's usually that sort of discipline that allows you to get to you where you need to be. I feel like to be self-sufficient with your craft in terms 100%. Of getting better, and then also having the possibility / potential of making income from it.
Yeah, it's definitely that, and being financially smart. That's another big thing.
Keyword, man. A lot of any sort of person. I feel like in this industry, there is a capacity to go broke just because of how much income you could get / how, I guess, I don't want to say like the industry is quote unquote like you need to live this luxury life and then post it, but I feel like there is that image that I need to look good. I need to
there's
be at this
definitely
place.
That factor with music. So there's if you watch any business podcasts, or you hear like interviews or clips on TikTok or whatever of business people talking about the way they spend money, like how Steve Jobs spends his money, or like how any of the like guys from Shark Tank or whatever. The constant is that they drive a really basic car, they wear basic clothes and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of their advice is really good to hold on to, but not all of it you can follow perfect. Being in the music industry, because they're absolutely 100%. I don't care what anybody says. There's some part of image that you need to hold yourself to. If your brand is being dressed normal, or being dressed cozy, or living like that kind of low lifestyle or whatever, not low, but you know what I mean, like very budget friendly lifestyle or whatever, that can absolutely be your brand. There's a lot of rappers who are like that, or a lot of like indie pop singers and stuff like that, or like pop artists who that's their main kind of thing. But then you also have people where your brand is being big and flashy. And I'm not saying you need to spend a bunch of money on chains. I'm not like, don't go spending like all of your money on clothes, but like maintain your image when you have the ability to do so. Like, I'm always going to have a better session when I'm dressed well going into it,
Of course, make
just
it feel
because,
good.
yeah. And not even that, but also just, the way that, you impact the room. Like, there's a reason that when you do a session with Kanye, he's going to make you wear specific clothes. Maybe you have to drive a specific type of car to it. Sometimes, like in his Donda sessions, everybody had to wear like the vest and like all that stuff, because it affects the energy in the room.
Hmm.
So like, I don't need to go spend $200 on an outfit to make it look nice, but like I can maintain some sort of image if I have like one or two nice pairs of shoes,
Sure.
one cheap chain that I wear everywhere, just because it's, like I've got this one that I wear all the time. It's like a little barbed wire chain. It's like $150, and at the end of the day, you can use it as a tax write-off, so you don't have to pay taxes on that. And because it's for your branding. So just maintaining your image, but still being financially smart. There's a fine line,
Absolutely.
and you got to be careful not to go over it. Like the biggest things to take away from a lot of those, big entrepreneurs and everything is don't blow all your money on food. Food is a big thing. If you go out to
Yeah,
eat
eating
every day,
out's
you're an
bad.
idiot. I've been there. I've been there. Like all these financial lessons that I've learned because I've been in the situations where I didn't follow that advice or whatever. And it's like, when I look back at 6 months of me eating out nearly every day because I was working like these long ass shifts, and I had to just get something between each shift. 10-15 bucks a day is a stupid high amount of money. Like, that's a
Multiply that by
lot
two
of
or
money.
three times
Yeah,
7.
yeah, bro. It's a lot of fucking money. And now that I'm really focused on, going to the gym a lot and maintaining my health and stuff like that, I'm really focused on like, okay, where's the balance between the best foods that I can get from my body and the best budget friendly stuff. I went to Walmart last week and I bought probably 7-8 meals worth of stuff for like $20.
If I
Like,
had a button here that would go down, 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 down.
yeah, literally.
That's where I put it.
Like spend money where you need to, like whatever, but just be smart about how you do it. Don't
Yeah.
A car that's fancy is not necessary. I when I first got out of the military, I bought a charger because I could afford it with my beat money, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. And then I realized so quick, like, damn, gas is crazy. I have to drive to Florida like every couple months now because we're doing these retreats and like all this other stuff, and it's stupid. So I traded it in. Now I drive a Toyota Corolla. It's a 2020. It was like 21K. I pay $400 a month for it, like $100 for insurance. It's a great safe car. I don't have to fill it up that much, and it's like so much better financially for me, and it just
Yeah.
makes more sense. Like, and ain't nobody gonna give a fuck what kind of car you drive. Like at the end of the day, like those kinds of things don't matter. Like, you know,
It's incredible that you had the self-awareness to buy the charger, but then after that, go through the hassle of let me return it or let me trade it in and then let me get the Toyota Corolla. And even I think from an ego standpoint, for a lot of people, it would be very difficult for them to do that because the
it was
Chargers,
hard. I'm
yeah,
not gonna
yeah.
lie. I loved that thing. I had my Instagram handle on it and everything. I had posted all over on Instagram, and I'm like, man, like I don't really want to do this, but a lot of times you gotta cash in your ego. Don't let your ego get the best of you. That's where a lot of artists will falter. It's like, if you get like an advance from a label and you need to spend that money for like your next project or like some music or whatever, like the first thing you want to do is not go buy like a nicer place to live, or like go buy a better car or whatever. Like, can you function off of what you've got right now? If you can, why would you spend more money on it? If I'm spending $25 a week on food right now, why would I want to start spending $500 a week on food when I could spend 25 and set aside $475 to invest and make more money on?
There you
Like,
go.
it like, maybe I'll get like the more organic brand or the nicer brand, spend like $50 instead of $25. But like if you're living within your means and you live in the same means while you get more money, which is a really hard thing to do. Everybody says to do it, but nobody actually does it. Most people don't do it. But if you can genuinely live below your means, you're gonna be really, really well off. Like if you know, even like when you're working corporate jobs or whatever, like you get a huge raise, you're making like almost double the money. If you have a decent place to live, why would you try to find something new? Like unless
Yeah.
there's something crazy wrong with it or it's like a really shitty part of town or something, bro, stay where you at, stack your bread. Like
Stack your bread. There's a lifestyle inflation for sure. The moment that you realize that you can make more money, you're like, yeah, the money will come in. Let me just make this choice. But you're right. You got to be aware whether or not those choices are financially right for you or in the long term, how they're going to affect your long term prospects on the things. So, damn, the self awareness, honestly, huge props on that.
I appreciate that, man. I feel like that's one of the most underrated values for most creatives is just self-awareness. Like when you become self-aware, I feel like your entire world changes. Like a lot of people say it's like motivation, or a lot of people say it's like, you know, just the consistency. But I feel like self-awareness is the key to literally anything you want to do. Because if you are able to look at yourself and figure out what's wrong from like a third point of view, you know, you don't have to worry about somebody else telling you what's wrong. And a lot of times you're going to be wrong too. Like, you know, a lot of times you think you're being self-aware, but you actually just got an ego, or you actually, you know, like there's been so many situations, like it happens to me all the time because, you know, I practice self-awareness so much that, you know, sometimes I'll think a situation is supposed to go a certain way and I'm like, okay, you know, this would make the most sense or whatever. And I'm just on that. And maybe it leads to a shitty situation or whatever, like, you know, breaks down a relationship with somebody. And then I look at it like a couple of weeks later, I'm like, man, like, I don't know if that was really the best decision on my end, but it's, you know, it's again, just being self-aware about your self-awareness. Like
You learn from it.
at the end of the day, yeah, as long as you're able to, you know, take a lesson from everything, I feel like that's what's going to benefit you the most.
Yeah, learn and adapt. Speaking of which, on another note, if someone were to ask you, what is your day like walk me through your day, like what would a general day in the life of Stafford Beats be like?
It changes all the time.
Or a
I've
day
got
in the life?
a blessing and a curse of, you know, it literally always being different. But I would say if it's a work focused day, usually I'm up at like, I don't know, 8 or 9 in the morning. I feel like is a pretty solid time for me because I've really been prioritizing getting a lot of sleep. It's really important. Um, and I'll cook breakfast first thing. A lot of times before I had like I'll start off by making like a beat or two in the morning. Recently, I've just been focusing on, you know, I eat something right away. I take a little bit of time. We've got this little indoor outdoor patio kind of thing. So it's like outside, but it's got like, you know, a door and like a cover and everything. I'll just sit out there, won't be on my phone or anything. I'm just going to eat my food, reflect on like what I need to do for the day. Just, you know, take some time to think. It's meditative in a way, but not really like, you know, actual meditation. I just think like, okay, what are some of the most important things that I need to get done today? Just so I've got that in my head ready to go. And then usually I'll go to the gym after that. Just you know, work out first thing in the morning. Sometimes I'll work out at night instead. It just depends. But you know, I usually get back by that time. It's probably 11 or noon, and that's when I get started with like whatever work things I need to do for the day. So you know, maybe it's making a few beats, maybe it's uploading a beat for YouTube. Um, you know, right now it's working on my website a little bit, whatever it may be. And then I'll spend during that time a lot of time on like Instagram and TikTok trying to find like, you know, new people to talk to. A lot of the times I work for
That's how we
like,
met, by the way.
yeah. I work for like 30-minute segments. I feel like is pretty normal for me. So maybe I'll finish a beat in that time. Maybe I'll do my YouTube upload and then I'll sit for 15-20 minutes scrolling on Instagram trying to find people to work with. Sometimes I get myself a little bit distracted, but sometimes it
Yeah.
works out really well. And then usually after that, I'll make some content. So maybe it'll be like a, you know, TikTok clip, or maybe it'll be a reel or whatever. Um, and then throughout the rest of the day, you know, I just do like a couple 30-minute segments basically. And like, I don't time myself for anything, but that's usually what it amounts to. I hate trying to tell people that I just sit there and work for like 7-8 hours in a day, because that's just not what it is. Like, you don't there's a balance to getting a lot of stuff done in the day and spending all of your time on it. Like, I don't know, to me it's not glamorous to spend 10 hours during one day just working away at like one thing. Like, props to you if you can do that. I'm just not the kind of person that can do that.
It's hard.
And my logic is I've made it to where I am doing it the way that I do it. So, I'm just gonna take that and keep going with it. Um, because I would say I'm like always working, like in the morning, the first 10-15 minutes that I'm awake, I'm just keeping myself updated. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'll text my girl, whatever. And I'll just figure out like what's going on for the day. Sometimes I'll find some people to message. People are hitting me up all day, every day. So there's always somebody I can respond to. There's always something extra I can do. So whenever I have downtime, even if I'm like, playing some games with my buddies, or like, out playing basketball or whatever else, hanging out with people, between whatever I'm doing, I'm always texting people back. I'm always, focusing on like what kind of content I can make. So I think the majority of my day is just spent thinking, really, when it comes down to it.
I will say though, now the creative game has changed with social media. Social media can be so negative, but at the same time, if you use it as the tool that it can be used as, I mean, there's your network right there. You have a whole access to people that could potentially be a part of your network, just a few taps. And also the fact that now it's a lot easier to be creative in the game because you can expose yourself to a lot more people, and your content can get exposed to a lot more people way quicker than it ever could have. You have the short form content on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok. And then if you can transfer the audience to your long form content, which for you would be YouTube, and from them to actually hear your full beats, then it's like, boom, you have a little funnel for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, I don't know, just being able to diversify yourself is really important. Like, I don't know, a lot of people focus on like, what content is going to mean in the future. Like, a lot of people I hear are like, oh, I don't really want to get into TikTok right now because I've never made any, and TikTok's going to die out soon or whatever. Like, don't ever have that energy.
Yeah,
because who gives a fuck what's going to happen in a year? What's happening right now? What's good right now? I promise you that if you learn TikTok right now, whatever comes next is going to be a lot easier to learn because you have that experience with TikTok.
Agreed.
And yeah, it's just a 24/7 thing at this point. Like, that's one of the, the glories and perils of being a full-time musician is, you got to be doing something all the time. Like,
yeah, I'll say another thing that I realized really quick, it was actually crazy. So I lived this past year with another fellow rapper, and he was working on it full time actually. So he was like, you know what, I want to make my full income off rap, and salute to him for doing it. And one of the big things that I think he realized early on was that making music by yourself kind of sucks because there's no one to bounce ideas off of. The isolating factor that there's no sort of creativity in the room, which what I think you've done really dope is you've organized these music events in Orlando where you huddle in like 70 other musicians together, free music, free mixing, all together, the creative energy bouncing. Tell me about that and like the first experience doing that.
Yeah, so the retreats are super awesome. The guy who started the idea, his name is Matthew Tock. He's the guy that I moved in with. Super awesome manager. He used to be a rapper, but he manages the artist that we live with, Paycheck, right now. Who, if you don't know, he's dope. He's got almost 1 million monthly listeners right now. But Matthew Tuck started the idea of the retreats because he was, trying to figure out some way to, make a fun in-person event, post-COVID, because post-COVID, a lot of in-person things seem to die out, kind of permanently. So, the idea was just get a bunch of people who are, similar in their creative energy together and just work on stuff for a week or just party, hang out, whatever. And it's developed into this really awesome project. I actually was partnered with him for a while. We did some like collab retreats, and now we're kind of splitting ways, doing like 2 different directions. So right now, the way that he's doing his retreats is he's starting to franchise out the idea a little bit, where he'll have one big event in Orlando, and he's going to have his actually a couple of weeks after mine. and basically all these big either influencers or artist managers or whoever has some kind of big impact on the creative space will have their own retreat house, and they fill the house with the people that are like on their team, and they all just they're all kind of there in the same city networking, kind of like a convention type thing. And then for mine, I'm gonna have it a little bit more focused on just doing one house again, because a lot of times we would do like 2, 3, 4 houses. And I'm scaling it back down to do, just one house, get 30 to 40 people and really just focus on making music there. And in the process of that, we're trying to be really open to, all skill levels of music. So for mine, it's like, if you started yesterday producing, or if you've been producing for 10 years and you're multi-platinum, multi-Grammy winning, you're going to see value in it no matter what.
So you've already been to one, right? Or
yeah, I mean, we've
previously
hosted 5 before.
What were, like, I guess in synopsis, what would you describe like that experience as for everyone, for people like, for example, I've never been to something at that level, at least like 40 creatives packed into one space. Like what has that experience been like?
So it's really awesome. It's, everybody kind of gets there around the same time. Usually we check in like 4 or 5 p.m. on the first day. So everybody's a little tired from,
and it's just one big house,
Yeah.
Or multiple.
In the past, we've done like a couple houses, but we all always gather at one main house to start with. And then the first night is just, most people aren't really working the first night. It's usually, everybody pulls up, they find like the room that they want to stay in or whatever. They start getting to know different people, people start networking. Like you put the people there and the people are going to do their own thing. They're going to network. They're going to, start learning more about each other. There's a lot of people who have come to like every single retreat now that, all kind of know each other. And it's like a family kind of vibe. And it's really great. It's just full of, good people who have similar interests. Like, the tickets for it are $300, and that doesn't include like travel or food or anything. It's just like to help pay for the B&B and the event fee for like all the work that we have to do setting it up and everything.
Sure.
Which, at the end of the day, $300 is cheaper than, any hotel or whatever you're going to find there. So it's awesome that, we're able to do it for that price. And, you pay the $300, you fly out, you come, you network with people, everybody brings their own setups, and it's like a big creative house, think like Fade's house or whatever, stuff like that is very similar to that kind of energy. And it really just brings out the most creative sides of people. And a lot of times people make their best music there. Like we've had songs that have been made at the retreat that are almost in 1 million streams already. There's people who are seeing a lot of success from the stuff that they made there, or built great connections and found, a team of like 2 or 3 people that they really just work with all the time now. And it's super dope. So, every day, people are doing like, maybe somebody will do like a Walmart run and, everybody gets some like food and stuff. But the whole day there's music in like every room happening. Everybody will have like a setup in their room or the living room, or a lot of times we'll have like a theater room. There's always a pool, people hang out, they'll party, they'll network, they'll make stuff. Like it's awesome. And
That's
then
the right vibe right there.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just very like whatever you have going on in your life, any kind of stress related to your job, relationship, whatever the fuck, like all that is out the window for this week. For that week, you're just focused on music, you're focused on being creative, you're focused on, doing what you're passionate about. And it's really awesome to see, because so many people come out of it feeling so much more inspired, even when they're making music by themselves. Because they're like, I use this example sometimes. Like I've seen a guy come into the retreat who produces, and he maybe made like 1 to 2 beats a week, right? But he loved making beats. But that was just like what he did. He would finish 1 to 2 a week, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But when he got to the retreat and he saw some people, like before he even woke up, were done with like 6, he was like, damn,
I gotta get to it.
I could probably do that, because they show their process and everything. Everybody's very open to, showing what they do and everything. We've had really, really talented engineers and everything show their exact mixing chains and all sorts of stuff. And, dude comes out of it, and now dude's making 4 or 5 beats every single day. And it's really awesome to see. And yeah, it's so cool too because nobody's allowed to charge for any service at the retreat. So like, I can't charge anybody for a beat if they want to use a beat. If I make it at the retreat, it's free. Like anybody, we do. I think it's like the Tennessee style or Nashville splits or whatever you call it. Where basically, if you're involved with a project at the retreat, all the splits are divided equally amongst everybody who contributed in any way.
So like in one house, you could have like, oh, this room, we got people recording in it. In this room, we have this audio engineer showing a group of people, oh, this is how I'm going to produce or audio engineer this song. And then another room, like a production type thing. Is that how it kind of goes?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the unorganized aspect of it makes it kind of organize itself. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, this room has to be for producers. This is for people who want to record. Everybody just sets up and figures it out. And that's the best way to do it, in my opinion, because in the real music industry, there's not going to be formalities like that. Nobody's going to tell you where you have to make beats. Nobody's going to tell you like, guide you through it. You got to figure it out. So we put everybody in the house. They figure out what they want to do. It 10 times out of 10 it works.
I feel like some dope content. Yeah, you said million streams, but like, man, everything, the videos, the music, the knowledge that comes out on another level.
Absolutely. It's a really awesome vibe. It's one of the things that I'm most proud to be part of because it's such an involved thing with the music scene. And my favorite thing to do as a producer is just involve myself in things that other people aren't doing. And this is something that nobody else is doing. Like labels have like writer camps and stuff, but it's nowhere near what we're doing.
Where on the priority list does networking lie for you?
Probably number one.
A lot of artists and producers, where should they put networking at? Should they also put it at number one?
I feel like it should be number one for everybody because everything else in music comes as a result of networking. I don't know, like there's something to be said about like, being able to teach yourself how to make beats just using YouTube or whatever, but like you only learn so much like that. I mean, like you're going to learn a lot of great concepts on YouTube, but your favorite things are always going to come from like your homie who shows you some sauce that nobody else knows, or like, whatever, or like just being around people and feeling inspired because of something they were making. Or whatever, like any placement opportunity is only going to happen as a result of networking. You cannot go Billboard or platinum or whatever without some form of networking. It's just not going to happen, period. So you need to find a team and you need to have a circle. Your team is going to consist of 2 to 3 people other than yourself, maybe sometimes more, but usually not more. It's going to be 2 to 3 other people, and it's going to be people who you believe in them just as equally as they believe in you. And that opens up a billion more doors just by having that. Even if you're not like doing things directly with them all the time, having somebody to bounce ideas off, somebody to tell you when you're doing something stupid, whatever, it's the most insanely beneficial thing you can possibly have. So that's going to be your team. And then your circle is going to be, it doesn't matter how many people. It could be a ton of people. It could be not very many people. It's just people who are consistently supporting you and you're consistently supporting them. A lot of the times they're going to be your yes men. It's okay to have some yes men in your life. Like a lot of people are like, oh, we can't have anybody that's like, always supported. Like, you don't want every single person telling you something sucks. Like I trust certain people to tell me when something that I'm doing is wrong or whatever. But a lot of people, I like having them there because they just support me and I just support them. And it's just like, even if their song is like not a 10 out of 10 or whatever, I'm still going to show them love. I'm still going to show them support and, be involved with what they're doing somehow, because, there's always room for growth and stuff like that.
It's important to have a mix of people that actively support your art, because one, that gives you the extra little bit of push to keep going. And I think when someone puts out a project, even if it's not a 10 out of 10, you can imagine the time likely went into it. And two, like you were saying, those in your team, those that you really trust to also be the tough ones to give you that critical advice / critical, what's that word I'm looking for? The critique when you need it.
Right.
Because sometimes you really do need someone giving it to you that if it was someone else, they might not have. But it's best
Yeah.
for you if you heard it.
Yeah, and one of the things that, it's a quote that I heard somewhat recently, and it's crazy. It's changed my life. It's a never take critique from somebody you wouldn't take advice from. And I feel like that's just such a powerful thing to me, because it's like, there may be people who don't like something, and it's, you should acknowledge that, whatever, if they're just hating, or like if they genuinely like don't like it, acknowledge it, but don't take it to heart. Only take it personal when it's from somebody that you would definitely take advice from, and not even personal in like a negative way, just like do something about it kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
if they don't fuck with the vision, just think a little bit harder, like, okay, is there something that I can improve here? And that's part of self-awareness, really, is just, having that. But I think also a key factor, a little Gary V moment here, but just gratefulness,
Shout out Gary V.
that's one of the things that I'm always vouching for, because, I've seen so many of those CEO videos, and like, those things about like, habits of successful people, like the cold showers and the waking up early and everything. And like different things work for different people as far as like routine and stuff. But one thing that's always consistent, is gratitude. Gratitude is always going to be number one. Like always, 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 no matter what, show love back if somebody shows you love. Like, just like, how there's like the whole revenge aspect in a lot of situations where it's like, if somebody does you dirty, you want to get even with them. Think about that in the opposite sense. If they show you love, you got to get even with them. Like you got to make sure that you're supporting them too. And, if you were able to walk into any room and add more value than you expect to take, you're always going to end up in a successful position anytime.
Honestly, the more that you give in a relationship, even though it seems sort of the opposite way, the more you take, the more you gain from the relationship. I think, the more you give in a relationship, honestly, the outcome will likely be better, because the other person will see that and will likely want to reciprocate. So I think everything that you're saying about, I'm going to give everything I can in this relationship. If they show me love, I'm going to give them love back. Great way to continue fostering and building that. And you never know where it could land.
Yeah, 100%. You always want to be in a position where you can show people love, and never have the mindset of like, okay, well, I'm doing a lot more for them than they are for me. Cause that's a really, I struggled with that for a long time, and I still do sometimes. It's a very toxic trait, is, like thinking, I'm doing more for them than they've done for me. And it's just not a good way to look at things, because if that is true, then okay, you're adding value to somebody's life. And if you're giving them advice or you're doing stuff for them, that you're doing the right thing. You are not hurting because of that. Your time is not being wasted. You are, when you give somebody else advice, you learn a little bit yourself. Like, even just talking about like, self-awareness and being able to reflect on stuff, whoever's saying that is usually able to be a little bit more self-aware, and, have an easier time talking to things. Like the best way to learn is to be a teacher, so
I like that quote.
And it's really powerful, because, if you know enough about something to teach it, then you can, you're going to learn a lot of stuff that's like between the lines. And it's, going back to the, adding more value and stuff, it's really important for like relationships too. Like, like having a girlfriend or whatever, like, you can't ever put yourself in the position of thinking that, you add more value than they add, because there's going to be some days where you have to give more than 100%.
Yeah.
Or, you have to give 90% while they give 10%. And sometimes it's going to be the other way around, but you can't expect it to be 50-50 100% of the time. And, a lot of relationship related things, like dating relationship things, can be reflected into business relationships too. If you think that same way, if you save somebody ass like 10-20 times before and they've never done anything positive for you, I bet you that one day they will. Or if not, you've learned something about, helping people, and you're going to be better at it. And, eventually good stuff is going to come your way. You just can't expect it. Do good things without expecting return.
I love having that perspective when you are able to at least understand the context of a situation, and even more so take the silver lining away from it. Man, you're going to grow so much, even in those cases when, in a relationship, it's not reciprocal. And to be in all honesty, in most relationships, it will never be reciprocal. But I think if you have the expectation going up and you're able to take something away from each of those opportunities, you are going to be so set up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And the most important thing when it boils down to it is just not thinking too hard about it, and not letting yourself get upset about it, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. Like, obviously the relationship matters, but like, you're not losing anything by being a better person.
I agree. Sort of the last point I want to make on this podcast, I want to ask you a question about the most accomplished you felt in your producing career, whether it's using beat money to buy a car, whether honestly, I saw that you collabed with Encore recently, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he's one of my
Him
favorite.
and Pacific and Mantra recently.
And
yeah.
Pacific, like these are some of the top producers on YouTube. Or if you have any other moments that you would like, be like, man, I'm really fucking proud of myself for getting to this point or doing that.
Yeah. I feel like I have situations like that a lot. I feel like I have imposter syndrome a lot of the time. So whenever something randomly good happens to me, I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. Because I never feel like I deserve those things. Like I know I like work hard for the stuff that I do and whatever, but I think one of my proudest moments was probably a little bit early on in my career when I did a collab with Young Taylor. Do you know Young Taylor?
I actually don't.
He's probably the biggest Juice WRLD type beat producer on YouTube. He's awesome. I don't even know how many subs he has, but he's had multiple type beats with like millions and millions of plays on YouTube. Like very, very successful producer. And he's one of the guys that I looked up to most at first, because I was doing a lot of like Juice WRLD type beats, like guitar beats, stuff like that. That was like the lane that I focused in early on. And I had actually paid him for a collab at one point. I paid him like $300. We would do a collab beat for his YouTube. I sent him some loops. He posted it and everything, and that was cool. But it was the craziest thing to me. So he had sent me some loops and I had sent him some loops, right? So I sent him some loops and he didn't really like the beats that I was doing on his loops, so he just made one with one of my loops and posted it. I was like, cool, whatever. But I still had the ones that he had sent me, and I posted one of them on my YouTube. One of the beats that I made with his loops, like 2-3 months later, probably. I had gotten a lot better at beats in that time frame, because I'd been studying like that style a lot more. And somebody hit me up and wanted to buy the exclusive for like $150, which to me at the time was like, damn, that's like a lot of money. That's awesome. So I hit him up and I was like, yo, is it okay if we sell this beat for $150? I just made another beat with one of your loops, like whatever. I was expecting him just to be like, yeah, whatever, just, you can send it here. And he actually hit me back with a voice message. It was on WhatsApp. I had his WhatsApp from when we did the collab. He's like, bro, you dumb as hell if you sell it for that. Bro, I just listened to the beat. It's super fire. Send it to me and I'm going to post it and we'll make so much more than that. I was like, damn, okay. Like that was like the craziest moment to me, because I had the validation from my favorite producer at the time. And he had posted it there. We ended up making like $500 each from the beat just off of leases. It's like not even sold or anything, so you can still like go and buy it or whatever. But yeah, it was just a really validating moment for me. And I felt like a lot of the stuff that I was working so hard to do was finally kind of paying off and like, reflecting in my music ability. So I would say that's probably one of my proudest moments for sure.
It's got to be moments like those that when things aren't going as smooth, because I feel like for everyone who's kind of working on their own entrepreneurial style, there's always going to be lulls and downtimes. But thinking back to those moments like that, it's like, damn, my favorite producer said my shit was dope.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
It was crazy. And that's another really good thing is just, never quitting. There's been a lot of times where I was like really close to just stopping making beats because I didn't feel like it was going anywhere. But I remember, man, it was 3 months into 3 or 4 months into me making beats, I was starting to make melody loops. And I was on one of the Internet Money Discords, I think, or something like that. And there was another producer in there, Beats by Slade. He's super dope.
I feel like I've heard of him before.
Yeah, I've seen him progressed a ton. I think he got like a Flow Millie placement or something kind of recently. Super dope, super successful right now. But he was really good at making loops like at that time too. And I was showing him some of mine. He's like, bro, to be honest, like, these are cool. Like I like the concepts, but they're not really where they could be. Here's like some things that I'm doing to, make them better or whatever. And, we had just been talking, like we got on Discord like a few days in a row. We were making stuff together. And, I'm never going to forget what he told me. He's like, bro, literally like the most important thing in music, and that was for him at the time, is every time you feel like quitting, something really good is about to happen to you if you keep going. And every time I've ever had the thought of like, maybe I should do something else, or like, maybe I should take it easy on the beats or whatever, I always had in the back of my mind that conversation. Shout out my boy Beats by Slade. Like he's super dope for that. But yeah.
I'll give you my moment. It was actually this year, 2022. I don't know. I was going through a really big lull of being uninspired, and I was like, man, I'm legit so close. I'm so close to quitting. I just picked up these other things, and I was like, maybe it's better if I focus on this, even though I've been making music since I was 11. So it's been literally 11 years since then, and there's such a strong urge. I remember, and I was so close. But then I got invited to play a show, and even better thing was my best homie was in town from Florida, flew to Atlanta to come stay with me. And he was like, dude, you got to take it. And you got to be the person that knows like all my tracks, but he had never seen me perform live. I remember playing that house show, best show of my entire life in terms of the energy, the performance, the crowd. And then afterwards, I had the same thing. I'll never forget. He was like, dude, I know you're just telling me about quitting like a few days ago. You can't quit. Keep going. And I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to take that to heart. So here I am, keeping it going. So
that's the realest thing ever, bro. It's like, it doesn't matter how long it takes you, but like, literally it's been so true. Every time you feel like you're going to quit, something really good is going to happen to you if you keep going. We have this little running joke in our house. It's like a karma thing. We call it the phantoms, and it's I don't know. It's kind of become something that we just like believe in a little bit. Like it personifies the idea of karma a little bit. And we always say like, we don't want to piss off the phantoms. Like we don't want to, like the phantoms are like these beings that are like always watching. They're always like saying like, are you doing the right thing? Are you reacting the right way? Are you, being the best person you can be? Like, are you, whatever. And it's like this feeling of like always being judged, but like in a good way. It's like, if you're doing good things that please the phantoms,
be a good person.
Like, you're going to be rewarded for that. And it's, I'm a firm believer in karma. I'm a firm believer that, obviously if you do something good things are more likely to happen to you. That's just life, So we just have this running joke that just personifies it. And it's like, we're always like, oh yeah, we don't want to, fuck with the phantoms. Like, they're so much more powerful than us. Like, we're not going to be able to change that. So it's, just living in a way that's like, based off that kind of thinking, of karma and just being a good person and everything, I feel like is the most important thing you can do as a creative.
I feel like I learn something new every single time I do one of these episodes. And I think the biggest takeaways for the audience there, even for me, one, don't be super judgmental. Know that a relationship with someone can take you a long way. You don't want to ruin that.
Mm-hmm.
Two, consistency and not giving up, because you never know where it might take you. And like you said, when you want to quit, man, great things might just be around the corner if you keep walking forward.
Absolutely.
And then number three, the network. Keep building that network. It's crucial for you and your development, and also in any creative space, especially music. You would love to have people that are supporting you, giving you the critique that you need, and also just sort of like that community there. It's amazing to have. So I think those for me were the biggest three takeaways from this episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I always learn something too, from everybody and everything. Like one of my biggest things that I believe in is that no matter who you're talking to, you can always learn something, because no matter, like a lot of times, people think like, maybe it's like Q beats or like Take Heat. There's somebody who's like really, really good at making beats. There's at least one thing they can learn from everybody, because everybody knows at least one thing you don't know, So even if it's not directly music related or like whatever, I feel like always put yourself in a learning position. It's gonna get you so far.
Yeah. Once I drop this EP and get started with my next music, I can't wait till we get some cooked up.
Absolutely, man. We'll make it happen.
Any last words to the audience you want to say?
Man, follow your dreams. Don't give up. Do whatever it is that you want to do, because we only live this one time. If somebody tells you can't do something, they're wrong. You just have to work hard enough and learn how to network and meet the right people to be able to make it happen. But always do that, and always add value in any room you're in, and you're going to be massively successful.
Let's go. From military to producer to producing full time to working with amazing producers and artists and living his dreams. This is Patrick Stafford, aka Stafford Beats. Go check him out. Where can they find you at?
Instagram at Stafford Beats. You can find everything from there.
Let's go. Go check him out, guys. This is the latest episode of Capturing Form. I'm your host, Freddie Fang. If you enjoyed today's episode, go give us a review, give us a follow, give us a like, give this episode a download, because Stafford Beats just spits some real knowledge. I appreciate you for tuning in. Until next time, peace out.